Okay, this is the normal speed of our story about Lucius Cincinnatus, a well-respected man from the Roman Empire. Be sure to listen all the way to the end, where I will give some vocabulary explanations. Throughout his life, Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus wore many hats. He was a humble farmer, an aristocrat, and a member of the patrician class. He was given absolute power over the people of ancient Rome on 2 occasions, and voluntarily gave it up each time. What made Cincinnatus famous in his time, and a legend in ours, is the fact that he was an honorable man. He was also a man of great wealth. However, Cincinnatus thought of himself as a humble farmer. His greatest joy in life came from cultivating his land. As an aristocrat, he never sought or asked for the power to which he was entitled. He reluctantly accepted leadership when asked by the Senate. The Roman custom in times of strife was for the Senate to appoint a single man as dictator. The dictator would have absolute authority over the people and army of Rome. Cincinnatus was named dictator when the Romans were losing a war against 2 of their neighbors. He was plowing a field when his call to arms came after the city fell into a panic. Cincinnatus successfully led the Roman army to a swift victory. After the battle was won, Cincinnatus was given a parade, called a triumph, through the streets of Rome. The people wanted Cincinnatus to remain dictator, and some wanted to make him king. Cincinnatus refused the offers, and after only 2 weeks gave up his power and returned to his farm. Cincinnatus was called upon to become dictator for a second time, 19 years later. Once again, the great man gave up his power as soon as his task was complete. Cincinnatus lived out the remainder of his life living modestly on his farm. His bravery and honorable character became the standard by which Roman leaders would be measured for centuries. His actions are still considered the gold standard for leadership around the world. George Washington is often compared to Cincinnatus. Like his predecessor, he was a farmer and was reluctant to retain power for any longer than necessary. Washington was also asked to be king, and like Cincinnatus, refused. Immediately after his service as president, he returned to his farm. Nearly 2,500 years after his death, the name Cincinnatus lives on in the form of place names in Europe and the United States. The most famous of these is Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that story. Lucius Cincinnatus in his life wore many hats. So to wear many hats is the phrase I want to focus on. And if you wear many hats, it means that you juggle different roles in your life. So maybe in the daytime, you work in an office. You're a secretary or an office manager. And at night, you have a job at a bar, bartending, serving drinks. And then you go home and you have a family, you have children, you have a wife or a husband. And so you fulfill those roles. You are juggling those roles. And it's very important not to drop any of those balls that you are juggling, so that you can keep your life in order and you can fulfill your responsibilities in those roles. So to wear many hats means to be able to do many things in your life. You have different roles. Do you wear many hats? How many hats do you wear each day? Now, if you happen to be an expert on a particular field or a field of knowledge or some kind of skill, then you are a specialist. And if you're not an expert, like a lot of people, you can do many different things, but nothing in the way an expert would. You are considered to be a generalist. And we often talk about people who are good at many different things as a jack of all trades. You might hear this phrase, a jack of all trades. And this is a person who's good at many different things, but doesn't specialize in any one activity. Sometimes I feel like I'm a jack of all trades. There's also a phrase, he's a jack of all trades, but master of none. Jack of all trades, but master of none. Now, if you happen to be a very special individual who really is a master at many different activities, who can play different roles in a masterful way, in an amazing way, you might refer to that person as a Renaissance man. And of course, the Renaissance is that time period between the Middle Ages and the modern world in Europe, 14th to 17th century, where people started to develop many different ideas and the culture really began flourishing like flowers blooming. And so there was a feeling that in that time, if you could develop your skills in different areas, that was ideal. And so if you see someone who is just amazing in their roles, you can call that person a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman. Are you a Renaissance woman? Do you know any Renaissance men? Okay, I hope you've enjoyed those. Put those phrases to use because it will help you to communicate better in English.